Hi everyone, welcome to my next review, and I will be reviewing The Long Good Friday. It came out in 1980, it's a British film. It stars late, great, legendary Bob Hoskins, Helen Mirren,
You should be the captain of this boat. Great timing.
who still acts to this very day, and a very young Pierce Brosnan. Yes, I mean that Pierce Brosnan. Hi everyone, I'm Johan and I absolutely love classic films. And my whole goal is to share all the movies I love with you. From classic films to modern films, I am here to review them in their entirety. It would mean the world to me if you can like, share, and subscribe so I can bring you guys more videos. Thanks for watching. The story entails about a gangster, a rough and tumble gangster from East London, Harold Shand, played by Bob Hoskins, who wants to become a legitimate businessman, who deals with not the London Docklands, but he basically wants to have a freight business.
Listen, I want to propose a toast. Hands across the ocean, right?
To the future.
To the future here.
And his love interest, and you can say business partner, Helen Mirren, is a supporting role and works with him to help him become a successful businessman. And I must say, Helen Mirren's pretty cool.
Have you organised everything?
Yeah, it's coming along. Charlie should be landing about now. Yeah.
However, the movie has a lot of twists and turns, and Harold Shand's and Victoria's relationship is a relationship that has a lot of ups and downs, and it's not a linear relationship.
I'm going to bed. Good night.
Boy, come here, I'm talking to you.
Don't treat me like one of your thugs.
Something that stood out about Victoria and Harold's relationship is it had romance with it, but also at the same time, it had a business-like feel to it as well.
Listen, I wouldn't hurt you for the world. Come on.
I'm so scared, Harold. I want to die.
While there weren't any overtly sexual scenes between them in the movie, it was a very British movie where it was a lot of just British sensibilities, and you had to really pay attention or it can just go over your head. I feel Victoria made Harold feel bolder as a gangster, and he was able to stand up for what he believes and ask for what he wants. And Victoria, I feel, was able to help him with that. They often say behind a successful man is a strong woman. Therefore, I feel like Victoria kind of pushing him behind the scenes really propelled Harold to the top.
Harold and I have no doubt that by tomorrow the problem will be settled.
You sound very confident.
I am.
What I enjoyed about this movie was it portrayed a London that had a flair to it for gentrification.
And today is a day of great historical significance for London.
And there were some rough and tumble parts of London that are portrayed in the movie. And a lot of people were actually living in those cities. And what happened to London, England, like a lot of other cities, is that they become gentrified over time and they lose their flair, they lose their flavor. So I like the movie that it was able to portray London in a grim way, like how New York was portrayed in Death Wish. But the great thing is that I just like the acting. British movies are very confusing at times. They have 2-3 storylines going all at once, and you have to pay attention to the movie to understand the flow of it. In terms of Harold as a character, he kind of portrayed a cheap Vito Corleone. I thought someone who isn't dignified, but someone that's a little more, let's get down to business, a little more of like a working class Vito Corleone. And Vito Corleone, if you don't know, is the main character in The Godfather, played by the great late Marlon Brando.
All of you know me here.
I felt Harold Shand is like a dollar store version of Vito Corleone. That's not to say the movie wasn't great. I loved this movie, but I felt that Harold Shand was someone who actually tried to make it big who comes off as aristocratic like how Vito Corleone did.
Nothing unusual, he says. Eric's been blown to smithereens, Colin's been carved up, and I've got a bomb in me casino.
Something that was surprising about this movie, and especially Harold Shand, is that he's a very vulnerable character. He cries when people get killed, when his friends, associates get killed, and that is something that I haven't seen in other gangster movies. Especially American gangster movies, where they are portrayed as tough guys and no matter what happens, they always come off with a smiling face. That was not the case in The Long Good Friday. Harold Shan is someone that is portrayed as human and has human emotions like we all do.
What's happening to me?
The thing about Bob Hoskins that I like about him as an actor was he was someone that was able to portray himself as an actor, but not your typical actor. He's someone that kind of comes off as rough and tumble, very thick Cockney accent, and someone that can play rough and tumble characters, but also show the raw side of the human personality, the sad side of the human personality, the vulnerable side, the family side, someone that loves, someone is a parent. Like, he's someone that can play characters like that. And in this movie, The Long Good Friday, he portrays himself as a rough and tumble gangster, but also someone who's human and who has friends and who grieves at the loss of friends.
Me and Colin was very close. I've known him since I was at school.
Did this movie make me think it's a gangster story or a political story? Well, I think it encompasses both of those things, because in England at the time, there was a lot of gangsters willing to use cities that are a little rough and tumble to make some money and kind of grow their own business. And also at the same time, there was the influence of the IRA, which was very, very huge, especially in Europe and in England in particular at that time. Very great influence, very big influence, and it kind of defined British government policy on all sorts of things for the entire 1980s and beyond.
What did these comedians look like?
They just look like any other mix, heavy mix.
Mix?
Yeah, you know, Irish.
So I feel the movie was political and also at the same time a gangster movie as well. One of the scenes that really stuck with me in this movie is when Pierce Brosnan is being debuted in the movie at the swimming pool. Spoiler alert, coming off as a vicious killer. Pierce Brosnan has played a vicious killer, as we all know, later on in his career, James Bond. But he's often on the right side of the tracks. In this movie, he is on the wrong side of the tracks. Some people may think after watching this movie that Harold Shan's dream of becoming a legitimate businessman was doomed throughout the movie. I don't think so. I feel like had he surrounded himself around good company, he could have made it as a legitimate businessman.
I'm not a politician. I'm a businessman with a sense of history.
Because a lot of people are able to shed the old image and come out strong. And Harold Shan could have done that, but he just had his own demons, his own environment, I think, kind of drawed him back into that life he tried to run away from. And disclaimer, British movies tend to have multiple storylines in the same movie running at the same time. So what I advise everyone to do when they watch this movie is pay attention to it all along, because British movies are different than Hollywood movies. Hollywood movies have one storyline that you follow through from beginning to end. British tend to have 3 or 4 storylines that's running at the same time, and you cannot lose focus. Compared to American gangster films, or compared to Hollywood gangster films, I should say, this movie was different because this portrayed a gangster showing raw emotion. Someone that wants to make it big, someone that sees himself as like a Vito Corleone, or someone like a classic Bond villain, where the classic Bond villain and Vito Corleone barely showed any emotion. Harold Shan is someone that does show emotion, and you can't really think of him as a psychopath. He's someone that wants to hit it big, but kind of fell into bad company. What I think that surprised me the most about the movie is the end scene between a very young Pierce Brosnan, who was an IRA hitman, and Harold Shan. Because Harold Shan is someone throughout the whole movie always had ways to get out of a situation. But at the end of the movie, when Victoria is being kidnapped, spoiler alert, and Harold Shan got into a car, and the IRA hitman portrayed by Pierce Brosnan points a gun at him. Harold Shan has that oh moment. And he doesn't say anything, but it's that classic Long Good Friday theme music that plays, and it went from like everything from like I'm gonna kick this guy's ass to crap, I'm dead. And I just love movies when they have that oh crap moment. I would recommend this movie to all people, especially people that like British thrillers and British movies like I do, and someone that doesn't mind seeing some violence here and there. And that is my review. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys at the next review.